we see that when we enter one of our courses, folderizing is one of the main techniques we can use to start organizing content within our Schoology course itself. So if we take a survey of the course right now that you're looking at, which is Schoology 100, we notice a couple things here that we want to point out. Number one is not only do we have folders, but we have what's called a naming convention. So as you deliver assignments to your students, you deliver resources to your students, really thinking about how am I, number one, going to name this so it makes sense to them, but also how do I present them in a sequence that's going to follow logically from the next to the next. And so the naming convention has a lot to do with that. If we open up Module 3, for example, we see Lesson 1, Organization, and we see that our organizational model here is to be consistent about Engage, Explore, Apply, which is the instructional model that we recommend at GUHSD Tech. You also notice that when we make folders, we can color them. So offering students different ways to interact and access the content that we're delivering is very important. You know, this chunking and scaffolding can really go a long way when we consider meeting the needs as much as we can for all the students that we have in our classroom, and really proactively thinking about packaging, sequencing, and structuring our content so that when it's displayed to our students, they're more able to access it. One of the pieces we want to explore are some examples of what teachers out there are doing to organize their content, and maybe what are some of the ideas behind their doing that. And then also, you know, where is some room for improvement here as we consider what our organizational model is going to be within Schoology, whether it's using folders, whether it's using naming conventions and colors to really sequence things in a way that makes sense for our students. If we open up organization here, we see that 3.1 Explored Part 2 is right here. What this really is a series of examples of types of organizational models that some teachers use, and it's broken down by subject area. So please feel free to go through and take a look at what are some of the characteristics of these. You know, we have a social studies unit, for example. The social studies unit starts off with a discussion question, and then it goes right into organizing by unit. Unit 1, title, and then under that, we have some activities that are listed here. One of the things to consider is that after our larger organizational unit at the top here being by unit, how am I going to organize these folders in here? If I'm a student and I look at this, do I know what I do first? Do I know what I do next? And one of our recommendations is to further develop your naming conventions, maybe adding a number in front of it. And here's an ELA, for example. We see lots of resources that are listed here for students. And if we click, we can go to them, and we see the assignment at the bottom. Maybe a recommendation is to, beyond the fact that they're listed in order, I, as a student, not sure if they're listed in order or not. And so how can I maybe use some naming conventions with numbers or letters to represent the sequence that also follows? So after this video, I really encourage you to go through and take a look at some of these organizational models that teachers are using. Here's some numbering fashion here. Go through math, art, music, PE. So really at the end of the day, really finding a balance between how you want to deliver your content to your students and then how that content is perceived and interacted by your students. Now, one of the ways we can go about doing that in the end is if we go over here to course options, I can select view course as, and I can view this course as a student. So as you're developing content in your Schoology course, go ahead and view the course as a student to see what it looks like organizationally for them. I see colors, I'm a student. Module 1, 3, 5, 6, everything's colored and separated. I see Module 1, start here, and then I know 1 before 2, and so on and so forth. So really kind of thinking about what content you have, who your students are, and how can you best weave in organizational characteristics such as coloring, such as folderizing, and such as naming conventions to really create the best experience for our students as we can to promote as much learning as possible.